Hi everyone, I am Sai Krishna, an experienced developer from India. I'll be the instructor for this project. In this project, we'll be building a task management solution using Firebase. So before starting working on the project, I want to show the showcase. So this is what we'll be building in this project. This is the task management app homepage. And if you see the page, you can see three categories. So tasks are actually split it into three categories, based on the status. So a status can be to do, in progress, or done. So it's similar to Trello. You can, if you see Trello, you actually have status, right? In the same way, we are actually categorizing tasks on the status level. And if I'm interested in some task, I just want to see some task, then I can just click on it, and you will see the task details. You will see task title, description, and the status, and the user, whoever is assigned, and the deadline. Suppose if you want to update this task, then you can actually update the description. For example, I want to update it like fix front end issue on navigation, not navigation, login page. And I just want to keep it okay. To do is fine. And I want to assign this to a different user, and I will just put the deadline somewhere over here. And one more thing you can notice is like if you try to select some date which is before the current date, then you won't be able to do it. That is one thing we added. And you can actually select the deadline, and then you can click on update task. The task is actually updated. If you go back, you will see the title is updated. And if you change the status, for example, I keep it to done, and done, and then update. If I go back, you will see it's moved to done. So the update feature is working, and this is the view feature. You can also delete the task, and if you're interested in creating a new task, then you can create it by clicking on this button, and then you can add some details. So I want to give this task like implement role based auth on dashboard page, and then I can give some description like fake description, and then status I can select to do user. I will just give the deadline as 20. Create. The task will be created, and you can go back and you can see a new task is created. And we also have sign in and register functionality. Suppose if you click on the sign in button, you will see the sign in page where you can enter the details and you can log in. And also this is the register page. You can enter email address, username, password, and you can register. If and also we implemented some verification mechanism in backend and frontend, so that if you try to create a new task or update something without logging in, then you will be redirected to the login page. That's one thing we did. So let's start building the project. So first, open your terminal, or you can just open your file explorer, create a new folder, and inside the folder, let's create a new front-end project. So for this project, we'll be using Next.js for the front end and Firebase for the backend. So for creating a new Next.js app, we will use this command npx create next app front end, and this will ask some questions. TypeScript, no. I just want to keep things simple, so I'm just saying no. No. This will create a new Next.js project. So a new Next.js project is created. So let's do ls. You can see the name of the project is front end. So just go to the front end folder, cd front end, and I will open this folder using VS Code. You can use your favorite editor, then just zoom it a bit. Okay, so this is the file structure of the Next.js app. So first, let's try to run the server and let's see the landing page. npm run dev, and because for me the showcase project is running in port 3000, so I'm getting this message. So instead it's running in 3001. So let's open it. Localhost 3001. Initially for the first time it will take some time. Okay, this is the home page. So let's remove the unnecessary things. So inside the app folder you will have all the files which were related to the page. So I'll go to the layout. First I'll change the title to task management. So this will change the title to task management, and then I will go to page.js, and here I will remove everything inside this main block. We don't need this. So I'll remove this style as well, and you can put something, for example, hello world, save, and you can see this hello world. And actually the background is dark because of extension, so I'm just removing it. Okay, still the styles are applied. Extension is removed, right? No, turn off. Okay, so let's go to CSS. I'll just remove the styling. Clear, globals, remove, and then I'll go to layout. Okay, this is where the global CSS is imported, so it's fine. We can leave it. Now I think it should be a clear white page. Okay, so first let's install Bootstrap. For this project we will use Bootstrap for styling. So I'll just do npm install Bootstrap. Okay, Bootstrap is installed. Once Bootstrap is installed, just go to layout.js. Because we want Bootstrap styles to be applied to all the pages inside this app folder, we will import Bootstrap over here. If we import it inside any other folder, I mean, if you import it inside page.js or any other file, then the styles will be applied only for that particular page. But I want styles to be applied to every page inside this app folder. So for that reason, I'm just importing it here. Bootstrap /test /css bootstrap dot min dot css. Save. If you go here, I'll just change, I'll just add some button just for checking. Button class name, button primary, and then I'll just keep it button. Save. Okay, Bootstrap styles are applied, as you can see. So this is good. Now let's install Firebase, because for this project we'll be using Firebase. So let's install Firebase first, and I will go to Firebase console. So click on go to console. If you haven't created a Firebase account, please go ahead and create an account. Once you're done with your Firebase account, just create a new project. And for the project name, I will just give task management and continue. I don't want analytics for this project, so just ignore it. And okay, this is creating a new project. Is good. And here also the installation is going on. Okay, so project is created. Click on continue button, and just click on the web icon because we are developing backend for the web. So give it a minute. Okay, now you can create some app. Task management, and then I don't need hosting, so I'll just register. And okay, npm install Firebase. We are doing that here, and we have to copy this configuration inside a file inside our front end project. So here we will just create a new project called, not here, inside the root level, we'll create a project firebase.js, and we will copy paste everything that's there, save, and then continue to console. Okay, this is the dashboard of the Firebase for the app, and then it's still not installed. It's taking some time. Let it install everything, and let's work on the authentication first. First, let's create some pages, and then let's work on the backend as well. So for authentication, we need two pages, one for sign in and one for sign up. So as you can see in the showcase, we have a sign in page and then a register page. So let's work on both these pages. So inside this Next.js app folder, we will create a new folder. One is login and another one is register. And inside login, we will create page.tsx, not tsx, jsx. And in the same way, we will create a page.jsx file over here. This is how you actually create pages inside Next.js 13. This is the latest version. Previously, we used to do it other way. We used to directly create some files like login.jsx, but now we have to do it like this. So once you have the component, you can just use this RFC React components extension and then log in, and you will see the login page. Save, and if I go to /login, you should see the login page. Okay, so this is working. So first, let's work on the register page. We will build the register page, and we will let the user create an account. Once the user creates an account, we'll use the same credentials for the login page. So let's work on the register page. Remove, and then here we will register. Register page, save, and then go to register page. And the main thing we need in the register page is a form which will be there in the center, and it should contain three fields, one for email, username, and password. So let's get a form. First, I'll just go to getbootstrap.com, and here I will go to docs, and I'll go to forms and just copy the code over here, and then I will just paste it here. Copy. Okay, select the class name and change it to class name. It should be class name in JSX. Class is a reserved keyword in JavaScript, so we have to use class name. And the email looks fine, password looks fine, and the input field, it should be ended with / in JSX. Let's do that. We don't need this checkbox element, so let's remove it. And if I go back, you can see the form, but it's not looking good. I want the form to be smaller, and I want it to be in the center. So So first, we will add some styling over here. Class name. I'll make it a flex box, and then I will align the items to center and justify content center. Save, and you can see the form is actually centered, but it's not centered vertically. So what the reason is that div is actually taking the height of the container present inside. So it's not taking the entire height of the container, so that's the problem. So for making it take the entire height or considerable height of the page, we just have to give style, I mean CSS styling. So I will give some height and I'll put it 100 VH. 100 VH means full height. So now you can see the form is actually centered. But if you want it little above, then you can just reduce it to 80 VH. Now it's little above. And so we have two fields as of now, email field and password field. We need another field, username field. So let's add it. So copy, and then here we'll just change the we don't need to change. Okay, it's better to change ID. So input, I'll just copy the email, username, save email address, username, and username 1, text, and then username 1. Good. Email help, we can just ignore it, it's fine. Okay, div, okay, we don't need this. Div, save. Okay, we have a username field now, and we have a submit button as well. But another thing missing is this link. So let's add it. Which so the link will actually redirect the user to login page if the user is already logged in. So class name my3, and it should have a button, and class name my3, and then okay, it's not a button, it should be a link, because we want it to be like a link. And for link we have to give some href slash login, and we will just tell like existing user, then login. Oh, but it's going here, so it's not good, because it's okay. The reason is it's not inside this form, so let's put it inside the form. Save, format document, save, and yeah, now it's looking good. And let's add some header as well, because the header is actually missing. So for adding header, so I'll just create a new folder called components, and here I will create a new component called, sorry, new file called header.jsx, and same way rfc header, and then inside layout I'll just call the header, and I'll put it before this children. So I'll just wrap this children inside a div, and then I'll just call the header over here, save. Okay, we are getting a header over here, but the header is not good. So let's get a navbar from Bootstrap documentation. So let's copy some basic navbar, So, okay, this is good. So let's copy it and then go to the header component and just replace everything over here. Format, document. Okay, there is some issue. Okay, the input element is not self-closing. And by the way, we don't need this input element and also the form. So I'll just remove everything, save, and I want this to be like a link because uh, I don't want this to be like a button. I just want this to be like a link because I will use this for login, like a login button and slash login. And I'll just change this to login. And then navbar brand, I'll just give task management. Save. Good. And for giving a dark theme, all you have to do is you can just go to color themes. And then here you can just copy the entire thing over here and then you can replace it. Save. And then let's replace the class keyword with class name. Save. And there you go. We have a good looking navbar. And I'll just remove this fluid. I don't want this to take entire space. Okay, good. Format. Okay. So did we miss something? No. If I click on this, yeah, it's going to the login page. But let's work on the backend functionality of the sign up page as well. Then we can go to the login page. So let's just check the installation status of the Firebase. Okay. Something went wrong. Oh, okay. There was some network issue while I'm trying to install Firebase. So let's rerun it. Okay, it's going to take time maybe. So let's work. Complete the front end page meanwhile. So I'll just copy the entire code from this register page and I'll just put it here. And here, I don't need username field for login action. I'll just remove it. Yeah. So I think this is good. So let's go to this page. Okay, the login page is here. Existing user login. No, we should change this. Let's make it to register and here register and here new user. Okay, good. So you can go to the register page and then you can go to the login page. It is good. And let's work on the backend. I think the Firebase installation is done. Yeah, Firebase installation is done. We can work on the backend part of the register page. So this is the firebase.js and this is the config which we copied from the Firebase console page. So first we have to actually click on this authentication and get started. Actually, we have to set up some authentication method. Firebase actually provides a lot of authentication method, but for our use case, will be using some simple email and password authentication. So let's click on that and then email and password, enable, save. So yeah, the method is actually added. Now we can create some users. So for doing that, actually for understanding like how we actually do it, we have to go to Firebase docs. So Firebase docs. And I'll just go to the documentation. Build. Inside this build, we have authentication. So these are the services which Firebase provides. So for we want docs related to authentication. So I'll just go to this authentication and then web, and then we will see sign in with pre-built UI. No, we need this password authentication. So yeah, And you have a function over here, which is responsible for creating a new user. Okay, create a password based account. So we'll just copy the input statement and we will use the same code for our register page. So inside this register page, I'll just copy the same thing and then we'll just copy this code and then we'll put it inside handle submit method, because we want this function to run whenever the user clicks on this submit button. So first we have to actually add some event listener. So on submit, handle submit, and we will define handle submit method here, submit, which will take event, and then we will run this function. Save. So this is good, but we have to pass this email and password. So for getting the email and password, you have multiple ways. One, you can actually call the form element like from this event, and you can get the values from event dot target dot elements. Otherwise, you can actually use some state variables and you can update the state, and then you can use the state here. So for this situation, I will just go with the simple one, which is e.target.elements. So I'll just get the email and password and email, username and password from e.target.elements. Save. If you want to console log, so I'll just comment this for now, and then I will just do console.log, and I'll just console the email. For example, if I enter some email, 1 second, there is some problem. You can open the inspect tab, go to the console, and you will see the error. On submit is equal to function, consider converting part of this to client component. Yeah. Next.js 13, actually the if you're using some event listeners, or if you have some interactivity, then you have to define the file like component, like whether it's a client component or server component. By default, they are server components, but if you need some interactivity, then you have to define it like use client. Now, I hope the error will be gone. Refresh. Yeah, the error is gone, but still we have some other error. DOM property for, okay. So in this HTML form, we have this for. So in JSX, we shouldn't use this for. Instead, we have to change this to HTML for. Save. And then refresh. Now you don't have any error. But if I just click on this submit button, okay, I'll just copy this email and I'll put it here, and then I will just give some random username, submit. Okay, the page is actually refreshing when you're clicking on submit. So for getting rid of the action, you can just do that by e.prevent default. Save. This will get rid of the action. So if I just put the same email, and now you don't have the refresh action, but there is some error. No Firebase app has been created. Can call initialize app. The problem is you have to this is not getting the config, because you are just getting the actually there is no link between this file and the configuration which is present over here. So that is why it is causing some issue. one way we can do is we can just copy the config over here, and we can use it, but it's not a good idea because we need the same config for all the files. So for ease of use, what we'll actually do, or you can actually import it directly from the Firebase path directly, like at the rate. But a good way to do this is actually just cut this part and just put it over here. This is what people actually do when they use Firebase. So you can export this variable and you can import that particular variable from here. So I don't need this get auth. Instead, I will get this auth. I think it is saved as auth, right? Yeah. Auth from at the rate Firebase. I think at the rate Firebase is enough. Save. And now if I go back, okay, there is some issue. Failed to compile. So what's the error? Can't resolve at the rate Firebase. Let's try with at the rate slash. Save. Okay. Get auth is not defined. Where is this get auth? I'm not using it, right? So, oh, okay. So we have to import get auth over here. So yeah, now there is no issue. I'll just give some random email. I think in username field there is email. That's why it's causing this issue. Let's go and check. Is it email? No. Okay. The problem is with the browser itself. It's not detecting the email field properly. So I'll just give some sign. Okay. Okay. There is no. Okay. It is giving me like undefined. I'm not sure. Sai@gmail.com. Submit. I go to this function e.target.elements. Okay. So it should be like email.value. Then it will give some value. Okay, email is undefined. Why is it undefined? Okay, there is some issue here. Email is undefined. If you check the form, you will see the issue because we haven't assigned the name for the fields. That is why it is throwing that issue. So let's give some name. It should be username, and then name, password, save, and now if I submit, refresh, submit. Okay, still email is undefined. Page 12. Okay, let's go and check like what's causing the issue. e.target.element, email.value. Okay, it is actually email. Okay. Now you're getting the value. For example, if I want some username, then I can call it like this. And there you go. You're getting username. So it is working. So let's remove it and then uncomment this code. And then let's change this email to email.value and password from password to password.value. And it's good. Const signed in user. If user is signed in, then you will get the user credentials, and we will console log the user dot log user, and we will alert the user like successfully created user, save. If there is some error, then we will alert the same to the user. Windows.alert error message, save. Now let's try to create a new user, and successfully created user, and you got some response. If I go to Firebase and go to users tab, here I can see a user is actually created. So these are the user credentials, and you have a user ID. If you observe, we are actually storing email and uh, a password inside this user field, but we don't have a username field. But we are actually taking the username data, but we are not doing anything with the data. But it may be helpful, right? Because if you observe in our task management, if I go back and if I open some task, you need username for assigning the task. It will be a lot easier for a person to know like who is who, instead of just seeing the email. So for saving that data, we actually need to store this username inside a real-time database. So just go to real-time database. Inside build, you will find this option, create database. United States, it's fine. Then start in test mode, enable, and yeah, you have this URL. So first, you actually have to define some schema over here, like how you have to define the structure, like how you want the data to be. So in my case, I want to store the user names. So user, and the value will be a JSON. So inside users, I will actually store it based on user ID, and the value will be another JSON object which will have the username, and the value will be the username. And I can actually store email value as well. No, this not like this. Instead, I can just add some email field, and for username, I can give some random name. Let's go to this authentication tab. I'll show you an example like how the data can be stored. So let's take this email and let's put it over here, and then username, I will just give some username, and then I will add some another field like ID, which is user ID, and then I can actually copy this UID, and then I can put that inside this value, and then user ID, I'll just replace it with this user ID. So I'll just click on add, and there you go. Suppose if I add some new user, if we create some new user, then the details should be added in this fashion. So whenever we need some particular username, then we can actually uh, go to this /users/user ID route, and then you will get the user details. So this is how we actually store the personal information of the users. Suppose if you have some profile photos, then what you can actually do is you can create a new Firestore object, like storage object, and get the URL, and then store it inside some profile image field, something like that. So that is how you can do stuff. But for actually using this, you have to make some changes inside config. Like first, let's go to this task management, then Firebase, and here we have to call the real-time database. So for doing that, you can just name the variable like db, and we will do it. Export const db is equal to get database, and we will pass the app. So that get database has to be imported from Firebase /database. So let's import it. Import get database from Firebase. Sorry, from Firebase /database. Save, and just go to the register page. And here we will try to save the data over here. So for that particular action, we will just see like how to do it inside docs. So I can go to real-time database and then web, and then read and write data. And I will just go to the write data part. And yeah, you can see that here. So we did this particular step. We called get database and we passed the app as parameter. And we don't have to pass parameter, that is fine. And we have to call this function for creating a new user record inside this user's route. So the db, it should be imported. So let's import it, db from @firebase, and then users, it is fine. User id, so we have to pass user id. So user id can be accessed using user/uid. If you go to auth, you can see there is a field called user uid. So we are trying to access that particular field over here. And inside JSON, we need username. So for username, we will just call username dot value, the same way we did over there. And then email dot value. And profile picture, we don't have any profile picture, but we will store the uid, I mean the id, the same way, user dot uid. Save. Now let's try to create a new user using this new configuration, like new setup. Like I'll just give sai1@gmail.com, and then here I'll make it sai1. Submit. Successfully created user. Set is not defined. Whoa, we made a mistake. So set, we have to import it, and we also have to import ref. But a user is actually created. So let's delete the user and let's try again. Refresh. User is created. Delete. Account. Delete. Now let's try to create a new user. Submit. Okay. Now if I go, okay, let's click on this. Okay. Good. Now if I go and refresh, yes, a user is created. And let's check in the real-time database. And now you can see it is updated over here. You can see the new user ID and the new email, UID, and username. Suppose if you want to access it, you have some function inside this docs. Using that, you can actually access the user information. So that is one thing. Okay, the sign up functionality is looking good. Let's work on the sign in. So user account is actually created. So let's try to log in using the same user details. So there is some error in the HTML. So let's go to login page. Then, okay, let's change for to HTML4. Save. And then let's give some names. Name, email, password, save, and let's do the same thing like const handle submit. We will get the event and then we will run a function, and we will add the event listener over here on submit, handle submit. Then you can just import it, import uh what we have to import. No, sorry. Now you have to define it like a client component because there is some interactivity. So use client save. Okay. Okay. The login page is good. Now inside the handle submit. So first we will do e dot prevent default for avoiding the page refresh on submit, and then we will get the email and sorry const email and password is equal to e dot target dot elements save. And once we get the email and password, we have to log in. So go to authentication web, then sign in. No, not sign in, will pre-built UI, password authentication, sign in. And first we have to get the auth. So, and after that, we have to call this function, copy it and paste it. So for email, we'll just change this to email.value and password.value. And then for auth, we will import it from the Firebase config from here. Let's format the document, and then, okay, if the user is signed in, then we will console the user details, user, and then we will alert the user, window.alert successfully logged in. Save. If there is some error message, then we will alert the same error while logging in, and you can actually show the error message. Let's go back. Okay. Now, if I just go to the login page, I'll try to log in with the new details, submit, and there is some issue. Sign in with email and password is not defined because we have to import it. That is why we are getting the error. Now we have imported it. Let's try to log in again. And there is some issue. Password is undefined. So why are we getting this issue? I think password. Okay, it's not password is equal to password. Name is equal to password. Save. Yeah, now you can see the user is logged in. But one thing is not good. I just want to make it like an improvement. When a user is actually logged in, I want the user to be redirected to the home page, like the dashboard page. So we can do that using router, next router. So first, let's create a variable called router, and then we can call use router, and it should come from next/navigation, and here down somewhere. Okay, after all of this, we will just call the router dot push, and we will push the user to dashboard page. So now if I try to submit, I'll click on OK, and the user is actually redirected to the dashboard page. It is good, a lot better. So great. So now till now we have completed the sign up and sign in functionality. Let's work on the main task management functionality, the core part of the application. So let's go to the page.js. And here I just remove the button. Let's build some UI for this one. So first I will just create a div, and then inside this div I will create 3 divs. And so if you observe this main dashboard page, you have these 3 columns, and not 3 columns, actually 4 items, 4 columns. And in the first column we have to do tasks, and in the second in progress, and third done, and then fourth we have a button. So for getting these columns we will use flexbox. So we need to create another column, and then we will use flexbox, the flex, save. We will get 4 columns. We can't see them now. And if you observe, each column is taking some width. For example, I believe it's better to give it something like column 3. And for just showing you like BG primary. Now I hope you will see it. Okay, we still can't see it because there is nothing inside this container, so that's why we can't see anything. So let's work on the actual UI. So let's work on the main this one div, and then we will do the same functionality for the other divs. So column 3, and then here I will just create another div, and then I will create column 3. Next 3. So yeah, we have one div now, and this is not looking good. I believe okay, one thing is like it's not inside a container, so it's taking full width. I didn't like it, so I'll just go to layout, and then here inside this, for this div I'll just give this container. Okay, now okay, this is good. And I will give some margin top, some 3, so that the entire body will be taking some margin. Okay, this is good. And let's go to this app page, and now let's try to replicate the same thing for other 3 columns. So copy, and then I'll just remove these 2 divs, and then paste. And then here for to do, instead of to do, I will just keep it in progress, and then done. And for colors I will go with warning and success. Okay, this is a lot better. And let's work on the button part. So inside this div I'll just take the same column 3, and then mx3, and then it should be a link, because we will redirect the user to a different page on click. So I want the URL to be like task/create. So whenever a user clicks on this button, it will take the user to a create task page. Add new task, and then we can give some styling for this button, like button success, not success. dark, and let's keep it rounded. Save. You should see a button. Okay, link is not defined. Let's import it. Save. Okay, we have a button. And if you want to give some icon like plus, you can just add that over here. That is also fine. Okay. Then let's work on the each column. So for each column we have task, and if you see task, it's like a card. So I will create a new component called task card, which can be used in this page. Task card dot JSX and RFC task card, save, and then I will use the task card, save, and task card as of now. Okay, it is just task card. Task card is not defined. Let's import it. And yeah, this task card. Let's design this task card. So we'll go inside this task card and we'll give some styling. Class name BG light, and then we will put the content inside a div. Class name card, sorry, and we'll keep some margin for each card and shadow small. If I go back, okay, the task is, the card is somewhat better. It has some margin now, and it has some shadow and then some color. It still needs some improvement. So we will just put this title inside another div, and we'll give this card body. Save, copy, and then we will put it here. A lot better. This is looking similar. Now if I go to the page and if I have multiple tasks, it should have these tasks lined like this. And when I click on each task, I want the user to be able to go to the particular task page. So we'll define that later. First, we have to get the tasks which were there. That is more important now. But we don't have any tasks now. So let's create, let's work on this add new task page so that we will have some tasks and we will display those tasks over here. So if I click on this add new task, we don't have anything. So let's create a page folder for tasks, and I'll create another folder inside this task because it's inside create, right? So inside tasks, I will create, and inside this, I will create page.jsx. Page.jsx. Then it create task, and then create task. Save. Nothing is coming. I'm not sure why. Okay, we have the navbar and we have this body. So actually, I want the form to actually look same like the other pages, login page, but we need more elements for this particular menu. For example, if you go to the showcase project, if I just click on this add new task, you see an element for giving title, description, select status, and assign user deadline. So we need all these input fields. So First I'll just go to navbar, and I'll just go with a simple nav. Sorry, not navbar. It's a form, right? Form. Copy and go here, put it here. Then if I go here, okay, we don't have any title, so close this. We don't need email. So let's work on the individual input fields. So first one, it should be a username field. So sorry, title. It's a text field, and input email title, and then title, remove it, then sample input email title. We don't need this, and it is not a self-closing. I mean, it is a self-closing, but we need the slash. And then for password, I'll just remove this and all the things. And submit button, yeah, we need it. I'll just copy this whole thing, MB3, and for label, I will just give it description, and then input sample description, and here it should be a text area element. So text area and text area, input description, save, type. We don't need this type because it's a text area element. Now if I go, yeah, we have this title and description, but I want more rows like this. It's having very little height. So for increasing height, you can just define the rows field. If I want 6 rows, I can just define that, and the height is increased. And the submit button, I'll just make it create new task, create new task, and then I'll make it success, save. Good. We need other elements like select status, assigned user, and deadline. So let's work on the status first. So let's check for some select elements, and let's copy this basic code, and for select, we will actually maintain some spacing, div, and we need some margin 3, right? MB3. I'll just paste it here, and then I want some label field, label HTML4, and just make it like status, then select, no, status, and then here I can just change this to select status, save, and then the form select, this is good, HTML4, good. Okay, I have to give some styling for this one, form label, save. I go to the main page. For some reason, Bootstrap style is not applied. Refresh. Still, it's not applied. Class name, form label. Let's go back and let's see. Okay, use the default value or value props instead of selected. So I'll just remove this selected and One error should be gone. What are the errors? We have a lot of errors. Okay, class to class name. Okay, class name. Then here also, let's change this class to class names. Then, okay, now it is getting the styling. If I click on that, you can see we are getting some values. So we have three status types. One is to do, in progress, and done. So let's update that over here. So this is to do, and then I'll just keep it like camel casing, in progress, then done. And the value, I will just give it like to do, in underscore progress, then done. Save. And we can give some name to this particular element. Name, select, no, status. And here, let's give some name for this text area. Element name can be description. And for this input element, the name will be title. Save. And in the same way, the same way we have this status select element, we need one for assigned user and one for deadline. So let's create some other element. So assigned user is similar to this particular element. It is a select element, and we have to show the users list of users with username and email. So we'll just change the things whichever needed to be changed to HTML4. So I'll just change this to assigned user, and assigned user. Change this to assigned user, select user, and then we won't have anything. We have to get the user's data dynamically. So we'll just remove that. And the name is good. Okay. Okay, the ID should be changed. Okay, we don't have any ID. That's fine. So if I go back and okay, this is fine, but it's not, it's taking the entire space. I want them to be stacked horizontally. So for that, I will just wrap these divs inside a flex box. So I'll just cut everything and then I will put it here. Format. Sorry. Debug. No. Format document. And then I'll just give some last name dflex. Save. Okay. We have these elements in flex, like a flex box, but let's give some margin for these elements because they are actually touching each other. So one thing we can do is like also I want to give some more width for each of the element because it's too small. ME3, save. It is looking a lot better, right? Or we can actually reduce the size. For now, let's keep it like this. And then save. And let's try to create another field the same way, but it's for the deadline. So label will be deadline. HTML4, we can just ignore it. It's fine because there is no ID for the element. And this time it's a datetime field. So input, and let's select date field. And name will be deadline. ID will be deadline. Save. And why are we having this error? Because we have this option and select. If I go and check, okay, the styling is not applied. So class name, form control, save. Yeah, styling is applied now. But for the label, I feel okay, form, the styling is applied for the label as well. If I click on the form, and you can see I can select some date, but there's one problem with this with this particular thing. Like if I can go to the backward dates, I can select some date. It is not at all good. I want the user to be able to select the date which is uh, like today, or something which is ahead. So for doing that, I will just write some function over here. So I can just create this min function, and then I can call new date and call this to IO string, and then I'll call the split function, split it by t, and then I don't okay, now if I go back, okay, split to IO string dot split is not a function. Okay, the problem is this is a function, this is not a variable. Okay, now if I click on this, you can see the previous deadlines are actually blocked. You can't select any previous date. You can only select the date which is today, or the date which is ahead. So that is good. For the users, we want to get the list of users from the real-time database, or from the authentication. Like we have to get the data from the pool, whatever that's stored in the Firebase. So we have to do that. And other than that, okay, status is looking fine. Title, description, they both are looking fine. So let's work on this as a user part. Like we need to get the details right. So here first, so I want the user to, like, the details to be appeared like when the page is actually loaded, and that should happen once. So we will actually use the use effect hook. So use effect. So, and then it's a client component, so let's make it use client. Okay. Okay, there is some issue. Use client. Okay, we actually use this use client. Okay, now inside this use effect, I want to call this get user list function. Get user list, and I will create this get user list function over here. Const get user list, and it won't take anything. And first, let's go to the Firebase docs, and let's see if there is any function available for getting the users. So I want to get the username and email. So we don't need to, we shouldn't use this authentication thing. Instead, we have to actually interact with the real-time database. So inside this, I'll just go to read and write data, and here you will go to the read data section and just copy the code over here. We have this on value function, and also we have this get function. So get function is usually for getting data once, and this on value is for getting data like in real time. So I will just I just want to get the data once, so I will just use this get function. So I'll copy this and I will paste it over here. And for the DB reference, I'll just update it with DB, and we will get the DB from the Firebase. And the users, this is good. And the user ID, And for the user ID, we don't need user ID because we have to retrieve the list of users, like whatever that's present inside real-time database. So we'll just ignore the user ID and we'll just remove it. And let's check the function. So get, we are getting this users, and then snapshot. If snapshot exists, then we are getting the value. So we will store the value. First, let's run the function. I mean, let's check that whether the data is coming here or not. So refresh, get is not defined. Let's import it. Then refresh, child is not defined. Refresh, path is undefined. Where is path? Okay, the problem is we should actually pass the reference of DB instead of DB. So we should call this reference function, which is coming from this database. And then now I feel this should work. Yeah, now we are getting the data. So we have two users and we are getting the data from the real-time database. So you have these two objects. The UIDs are the key and the values, like here we have the email ID and username. So let's create a state variable and let's store the data inside a state variable. So const users list and set users list is equal to use state, and we will keep it null, not null. We'll keep it an array first. Then we will just store the data. So snapshot dot value, we will get the data, const data is equal to snapshot dot value, and then we will set the users list with data. So if you want to put the entire data, then you can do this. Otherwise, if you want to set only the values, you don't need the keys, then you can actually call the object dot values function, and then you can pass the data. So this will be stored as a list. Otherwise, it will be stored like a object. So that is good. So we have the users list. Now we can actually create a for each block over here. So in this option element, we will iterate over the users list, and we will call this for each. Actually, we need map function, not for each, because in map we can actually return the data, right? So we need to create some new elements. So we will use this map, then map item, then return item dot username, and save. Then we have to give some key as it is like Next.js item dot id. Then we can use the value as item dot id. Then if I go back and open it, yeah, now you can see we have the usernames. Also, if you want to display emails, because usernames might be similar, so for helping users differentiate the users, so we can use emails also. So for emails we can actually show them like so here I'll just do some string, like I'll use some format strings, and item dot email, and save. Now if I go back, now you can see there is this username and email. It's good. If I sell, there will be some value associated with as well. So this is looking good. Deadline is looking good. Status good. Title, everything is fine. Now we can click on the create new task, and we can use the form data to create a new task. But for storing the task, we don't have anything in real-time database. Like we don't have a structure. So first we have to define it. So here inside this database, create a new key for task. This is for storing tasks, and for each task, I want to store it by ID, task ID. So for each task, there will be some task ID, and the value should be the task details. For example, a task might contain the values like um, title and description, yes, and then status, then assigned user, then deadline, add. So this is how I want the structure to be. If you have a different structure in mind, you can use that as well. But for this project, I'm thinking of doing it like this. So first, we have to capture the form data. So whenever the data is actually like whenever user input something, the data should be stored inside this form, in a state variable. So for that purpose, I'll just create a state variable called form data. So const form data, and I want that to be a state variable. So set form data and use state. And initially I will just I just want it to be like a object, and inside this object we have keys like title, description, then status, and then assigned user, then deadline. So title, description, will keep it like empty strings, or you can actually keep it like null as well. That is also fine. I'll just change this to null. Null, null. Save. So whenever there is some change on an element, I want the for this particular object to be updated based on the field name. So I can do that. For example, for this input element, if there is any change, like on change, I can just call this handle change function. And let's define this handle change function. So let's put it down here. Const handle change, and it will take an event. So we will just set the form data, and we will store it like an object, and then we will parse the unpack the form data elements, and then we will update this particular key dot target dot name, and we will update that with value e dot target dot value. For example, if you want to check the changes, we can do this console log and form data, then inspect tab. Now we will just try to do this. Yeah, you can see that title is updated. If I assign this handle change function to some other element, for example description, then if I update something, now you can see description is also updated. In the same way, you can actually track the status updates by using the simple function. So let's add it for some all the elements. So on change, and then here as well on change. Select format document. Now let's check like whether each element is getting updated or not. Yeah, it's getting updated. Description updated. In progress. To do is updated. Getting updated. Like even here. Deadline. Let's check it. Yeah, it's getting updated. Like if you select some one more time, then you will see the changes. So all good. The handle change function is working fine. So now the next step is to take this data. So whenever we click on this handle submit button, we have to take this data that's present inside this object, and then we have to store it inside our real-time database over here, like as a new task. And we have to assign a new task ID for that. So first, let's check that. So I'll just remove this console log, and here let's create a new function for handling submit. Handle submit, and we don't need the events. Oh, sorry, we need event because we need to prevent the default action, right? So prevent default and save, and let's add this event handler here on submit, handle submit, save. And I go back. Okay. So for writing data, so we will use the same set function, whatever we used here inside this register page. So let's copy this, then let's paste it over here, and then let's import the set ref. Is it imported? Let's check it. Okay, set ref are imported, and then the db, I think it's imported already. And now we have to change the path to tasks, and for task id we have to generate a new id. So for generating new ids, we need to create like install a new library called uuid v4. So open the browser and go to uuid v4, and just copy this command and go to console. This will install the library. Now it's time to import it. So just go here and import the library. Import v4 as uuid v4 from uuid. Save. And now here we will create a new uuid. So const task id is equal to uuid v4. Save, and we can use this task id for here. Task id, save. And for this object, we don't need to create a new object. Instead, we can just use this form data directly, because form data is also an object. So form data, save. If I so let's test it. So let's give some task names. So update templates with new library, then description, random description, it's to do, and then user. Okay, let's create. Then, okay, we haven't written any console log statement, so it's not showing anything. But if we go to this real-time database, we should see something. Okay, we can see that. So a new task ID is there, and then we have this title, description, good, status, same, deadline, everything is there. So it is working perfectly fine. So yeah, so we worked on the creating task part. So let's create some other tasks so that we can actually work on the dashboard page for showing. For example, I'll just create some random task. Role based, big description, in progress. Then user, we can give this user deadline 28, create task. Okay, it's working. So let's go to the main page. I want this navbar to have this like a link, because whenever I click on this link, it should be redirected to the dashboard page. So I'll just update that in header. Uh, so inside this A, just make this link import and href. It should go to the dashboard page. Okay, let's go to the dashboard. Now we have this main page. Let's write some logic so that we can actually see the tasks appearing here. So go to page.js, and here first step is to get the data, like whatever that's there inside this real-time database. We have to get that, right? So we will use the get data on. So we will use the same get method, the same way we used inside this page. So we will create a new function called get tasks list, get tasks list, and then takes nothing, and then it should return the task list. So in get task list, we will just use the same function logic. Let's call the get child ref db, and then let's make it to tasks. Good. So all good. We're getting the data, and let's save it. Let's create some task, like a state variable, tasks list, set tasks list, and use state, and let's update the task list. So set task list, and this time I want to use the entire data, so I just don't want this object dot values. So let's keep it like this. Save, and I want this function, like the get task list, to be run like when the page is loaded, and it should be running once. So I will use this use effect. And then here I will call this function get tasks list. Save, run. Then let's go here. There is some issue, use. Okay, we have to make this client component. I can just remove this. Use client. Save. Okay, as you can see, we are getting the data like related to the tasks. We have 3 tasks and we are getting the data. So the next step, but we are getting it like an object, and we have to categorize this data into three lists so that the data can be consumed like by the front end. Like we can use some map function to create these task cards. So for that purpose, what we'll do is we will write some filtering logic here, which will actually filter and create separate lists for separate category. So I'll create a new variable called filtered data. Sorry, filtered data, and initially it will be like to do, and in progress, and done. Save, and here we will iterate object dot keys of data dot for each. We will go with each key, take each key, and then for each key we will get the item data of key. Then we will get the filter data of item. We'll set the value like status. We'll get the status for the whatever it's there, and based on the status we will actually get the key, and then we'll keep that as an item. So if you want to see like what the data will be stored like, then we'll just do console log filtered data, save, and filter data is undefined. Second, I created it right here. I think that is being caused because we have this test record which is actually creating this issue. So I'll just remove it. Maybe this should work now. Yeah, now it is working. So if you see, we have three categories like in this object, and then done, in progress, to do, and this function is running through the each record, and it is categorizing the objects based on the status so that we can actually use this filtered data in this for like rendering the content. So that is what we were doing here. So we have the filter data. So instead of storing data, now we will store the filter data, which can be used down. So I'll just do the console log as well. And now, so let's work on the rendering part. So first, we need to get the keys, object.keys of task list. First, this is for to do, right? So task list of to do dot map, and for each key we will return the task card, and the key will be the item.id. So or we can just use the key like from here, which will be task id, and then props. So we have to pass the data whatever that's coming from the task. So we will send the props, and then in the content you don't have to write anything. So let's work on the props part. So for props we need to send the tasks list of to do of key. This will send the data. So if I go to the task card, I can actually call it like props. I can access the data. For example, so what does the prop contain? So let's see. So here, let's copy. We don't have to copy. We can just go to the browser and I'll show you what will be the props. So if I just open some object, then you will see this will be the data which will be passed to the task card. So we have the task ID, like not task ID. We have title, description, status, deadline, and assigned user. And so if I go to the task card, let's change this to use title instead of using this task card text. Let's use title. Save. Now if we check, we should see okay, can't convert undefined to object. This is certain. Okay. Oh, there is two brackets. Save. But initially we have set okay, the problem is here. We can solve this issue by instantiating some object with empty object, like for in progress and done. So the main benefit with by doing this is like when the page is rendered, you might not have the data like for rendering. So that is why the error actually occurred. But now we created this empty object, right? So it will use the empty object even if there is no data, like even if it is taking time, it will use the empty object initially. So it will not render anything when it is rendering this content. When the data is actually fetched, when the state variable is actually updated, then the page will be re-rendered again with the actual data. So that is what's happening now. So we can see the data, and we will do the same thing for other parts like here. So let's copy this, and here I'll just copy this here, make this in progress, in progress, then done, save. Okay, now you're getting different cards. As of now we only have two cards, so that's why we are getting two cards. But if you have multiple cards, then you will see the, for example, if you have multiple cards in to do, they will be stacked here vertically. So the next step is to actually do some click functionality. For example, if you click on this particular card, it should actually take you to a page where you can view the card details, and also you can update the card details. So let's work on that. So initially, first thing, I have to change this to a link component. So pglite, this is good. Let's make it a link. And let's put it here. Then h reference, I'll just send this to tasks / task id, and the task id won't be coming from props, I guess, because there is no task id variable. I'll just show you that. It will throw an error. If I open this to do in progress, some object, you don't see the task id. So we have to send it separately from this task card. Like when we are calling this task card, we have to pass the task id as well. So inside this props, I'll do like destructuring because I want to send some additional fields. Do I need to destructure this? Yeah. And then here I'll get the, I'll just unpack the items, and then I will update the task ID. So task ID, we can just keep it like a key maybe. And then the value will be key. Save. Now I can actually get the key props dot key. Save. If I click on some card, yeah, you can see it's going to task and the task ID. I think I missed the slash. Yeah, slash. Now if I go back and it's taking time. Yeah. Now if I click on that, now you can see it's going to the proper URL. If I click on some other URL, you will see it goes to some other URL. It's dynamic, and the styling is not looking good. It's giving an underline because it's a link. So let's remove that. Let's give some, let's remove the text decoration. None. Save. Okay, good. So let's work on the page, like the task retrieval page. So I'll create a new page inside this task, and it should be a dynamic page because it's rendered based on the ID, right? So I create a folder like this, and then inside that I'll create page.jsx and then RFC, and then I want this page to be used for view, update, and delete. For 3 actions I want to use this page: delete, view, or delete page. Save, and it should actually take us to this page. It is not going for some reason. Let's see. Okay, it's inside the create folder. That's the problem. Keep it inside tasks folder. Now, yeah, it's rendering. So first we will take the params. We will get the ID from here. Actually, for this, I want to use the same form. If you see the showcase, just go back to the home page, and if I click on that, you can see it is the same form which we are actually using for the create page. So it's better to use the same logic so that it will be a lot faster to complete. So I'll just go to the create page. I'll just copy the entire code and I'll just put it here, and I'll just change this to view, update, delete page, and then I can actually modify the things. So if I go to the page, you got the same form, but the data is not there. So inside this use effect function, you're getting the user list, which is fine. We need it, but we also need the values, like values of the particular task. So get task details. I'll create this function and let's define it over here. Const get task details, and here we will actually use the same logic, whatever that's there here. And let's take params because it's a dynamic page. And here we will change this to tasks and slash task ID. So task ID is nothing but params dot id. Save. Uh, so set, it's not user list, it is task detail. So let's create another variable. So like task details, and then set task details, save, and then I'll update that here. Set task details object dot values of data. I feel it is fine. We don't need this object dot values because it will actually give the object which contains values. So we don't need this. So let's check that now. And there you go. We are getting this object with values. And we have to use this values for this form. So the initial values must be filled based on the data. So what I can do is here I can actually set the form data. So so when you call this get task details function, you can update the form data with the data which you got. This will actually update the data, but it's not reflected here because we have to change that here. For example, if the input, okay, we'll just keep the initial value like value is equal to form data dot title. Save. Now you should actually see some data. Now, yeah, you can see the title is actually coming. The same way, we will update this value to description. Save. And you should see some description. Description is not defined. Description. Looking good. But why is it not coming? Oh, it is form data dot description. Yeah, there you go. You can see that. Same way, we'll do that for other input elements. Value data dot status value form data dot assigned user, then value form data dot deadline. Yeah, we have all the data. So if you want to update, you can actually update some information. For example, here there is a spelling mistake, so I'll just update it, and this should be changed. It's not a create new task. I want this to be like update task. Save, and then type submit. Looking fine, but when you submit, it shouldn't create a new task. Instead, it should get reference of the particular task and then update the value. So dollar save, and then we should update the form with this like we should update the data. Okay, this is good, and this is also fine. We need any changes? No. Task details, it's not getting used, so I'll just remove it. Remove. And if we update, okay, it can choose a name, build update task. It's better to actually show some give some feedback. So after that, we will just do window.alert updated details. Save. Then now let's check that we just made some changes to the description, right? So let's see whether the changes are actually made or not. a random description. It's not made. If I go here, description, same random description. But for some reason, a new task is actually created. D88. This is not good. The task ID. The task ID is actually coming from params.id. Okay. I think it used a previous code. That's why we are getting this params.id. If I do this and let's update some data, for example, here description, update. Think the data is updated. So if I go here, now we're getting another task. I feel description. Okay. It's not updated. It's actually creating a new task. There is some issue which we have to fix. So let's go back to the code and let's see what's actually wrong. So here the handle submit function, handle submit. Okay, okay, we are getting the form data, and actually let's refresh the page. Let's go back. I think we should see 4 tasks now because 2 additional tasks are created, and you can see these are some duplicate tasks. Okay, we are getting some task details. Let's try to update now. So params.id, I think, okay, it should get the same data and then random description, update task, updated details. Now if I go back and let's check the ID, it's starting with 9C9. So if I go here and you can see it's getting updated. There is some problem before, that's why it's actually creating a new object, but now after page refresh, it's actually not happening. I will actually try to update some other field. For example, I'll change the status to in progress and update task. Let's go here and yeah, you can see it's updated to in progress. So it's working. Let's go back and let's update some other task. For example, I will change this status to done and I will, okay, the details are actually not there. That's strange. For this, okay, for this also we're not getting details. Why? For some reason, all of the sudden it's not working. Refresh. Task/undefined. Okay, the problem is here. Inside the props, we are actually doing this destructuring and putting the key here, but for other elements we are not doing that. That's the issue. So I'll just copy this particular logic and I'll just put that in both the cases. So for in progress also we'll do the same thing, and here for done as well we'll do the same thing. Done, save, and let's go back. And now if we click on an item, yeah, it's working good. And if we change the status to done, update the task, updated details, I can go back and it should be in the done column. Yes, it's working. So it is working, like the update feature is working. All left is the delete feature, which is not there yet. So let's create a new button right next to the update task. So I will just add a new button. Sorry, it's not, it shouldn't be here. It should be inside this page, and here I will create a new button same way, but it should not type is equal to submit. We can remove it, and then for danger outline, yes, Okay, the button, the styling is not applied. Yeah, now it will be applied. And let's give some margin left, some 3, because it's touching the update task ML3. Okay, it's not working. Let's give MX3. Not sure why it's not working. Yeah. Then let's put it inside a flex box. Div class d flex. Yeah. And I think it's better to give some overall margin on top because it is looking congested like near the button. Yes, it is good. And for the update, like delete task, we have to change it to delete task. And let's add some event handler. On click, we will add a new function called handle delete. So here we will create a new function called const handle delete e. We don't need event, but it's still fine. And we can actually write the logic for, so go to the real-time database docs, and here you will see like how we can actually delete the data. And if you see, there is this remove method. If you call this remove method, the data will be automatically removed. So just let's go back to the handle delete, and here we can just call the remove function on the database reference. So db, and we have to call the particular URL, which is task slash params.id. This object will be deleted, and once deleted, console.log, we can console log like deleted task. So that's it. Now let's check the entire app. So if I go to the dashboard page, you can see the task. If I want to create a new task, then I can create a task. For example, like update social post. Then some description. You can give some random description, random, put some status. For example, if I want to put it like to do that, I will select some user, and then deadline. We'll put some deadline, and then we will create a new task. And this will actually create a new task. If I go back, now you can see the task is created. If I want to view the task, then I can click on the task, and we can update it. Updated details. We can update that, and we can delete that as well. And then we have the login functionality, and then also sign up functionality. So that's it for the project. So we have completed building the project, like the task management tool. I hope you all liked it. Thank you for watching.